Okay, let's look at the next line in our text. Ti phagomen. And notice that there is a question mark after this word phagomen. And this word is a conjunction meaning or, a tipiomen. And another question mark. E ti peribalometa. And another question mark. Okay, let's deal with this first question, ti phagomen. Again, I'll write it a little larger here on the pad. Ti phagomen. And we see that we have a question mark. Looks like a semicolon, doesn't it, in English, but in Greek, that's a question mark. All right, when we're looking at a piece of Greek, what do we want to find first? First, we want to find the verb. Well, of these two words, it's obvious this word phagomen is our verb form. The first thing we're supposed to do is to identify the lexical entry. Now, you may not be able to do that yet at this point, and so what you could use is your analytical lexicon. You could look up this word phagomen in your analytical lexicon, and it would tell you, it would give you the parsing, and it would also tell you that it's from the verb estheo. My goodness, that doesn't seem to have much bearing, does it, between phagomen and estheo? We must be dealing with what we call an irregular verb. Now, we spoke a little while ago about irregular verbs. And if you look at the last part of section 3 in your grammar, you will see a chart on irregular verbs. Let's find the verb estheo, number 18 on that chart. Number 18 is estheo. Estheo means I eat. Look at the future stem. The future stem is the stem phag. Look at the aorist stem. The aorist stem is also phag. All right, so we are dealing with an irregular verb or a second aorist verb. Let's now parse this verb. Even though the analytical lexicon will have parsed it for us, let's try to do it ourselves. First, we did learn that it is from the verb estheo. So we are not working with the present tense stem here, are we? The present tense stem of estheo would be esthi, right? Let's ask the next question. Is there an augment in front of this verb? Is there an epsilon in front of this verb? No, there's not. Okay. Let's go to the back part of the verb and identify our ending men. Well, we know by now that that's the first person plural ending. And we look in front of this ending and we see a long connecting vowel. What mood has a long connecting vowel? The subjunctive does. And by the way, we also know that this is an active ending too, don't we? So now we know we're dealing with the subjunctive mood. And in the subjunctive, there are only two tenses. What are they? The present tense and the aorist tense. Well, when we see this stem phag, we know we're not dealing with the present tense, are we? The present tense of the verb is esthi. So rather, this is an aorist, isn't it? An aorist, active, subjunctive, first plural. Now let's deal with the word ti. Before we do that, though, we have analyzed our verb, and after we analyze the verb, we're supposed to ask, Is the subject further expressed? Now this verb is first plural. If the subject were further expressed, there could only be one word that could be the subject. What word would that be? It would be the word hemes, which means we. And do you see this word here in this text? No. So it's just contained in the verb. Now let's look at our word tea. You will have learned in your vocabulary the words tis, tea. And the word tea, if you should look it up in your analytical lexicon, it would tell you that it could be parsed either neuter, singular, nominative, or neuter, singular, accusative. Why? Because in the neuter, the nominative and accusative are always the same. How do we know that this word is not nominative, though? Because it's not the subject, is it? The subject is we. So it must be accusative. And what is the most common accusative function that we have learned? The direct object. Rather than asking a question, let's turn this around and put the verb first, followed by the direct object, in which we would say, we eat what? We eat something. We eat what? But when we make a question out of that, we put the word what first, don't we? We put the direct object first. What shall we eat? What are we going to eat? Now we want to know what is the subjunctive function of this verb in this question. Let's look again at our subjunctive functions. And look at the first one here, a deliberative subjunctive, which is a question of great doubt, concern, or deliberation. See, Jesus is saying, therefore, do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat? So what is the subjunctive function of this verb phagomen? It is a deliberative subjunctive. We are asking a question here of great doubt or concern. What shall we eat? Which is what anxiety causes, doesn't it? Anxiety causes us to ask such questions that are focused on ourselves. What shall we do? What will happen to me? How will I pay the rent? And so forth. Now, if you'll notice in your text, you have another question, tipiomen, which, if you look the word up in your analytical lexicon and get the definition in your dictionary, you will also discover that this word is too a deliberative subjunctive. Let's look at the word peribalometa, and you'll find the same thing, a deliberative subjunctive.